Hey, thanks so much for finding the video. Do us a favor. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. Be sure to leave your comment. We love to interact. Enjoy the video. Certainly significant news in the NFL and certainly consequential for the New Orleans Saints, as we all assume the Saints will be moving on from Drew Brees this offseason. And the primary suitor that most Saints fans had as the apple of their eye, Lions quarterback Matthew Stafford, that is no longer a possibility. Multiple reports over the weekend that Matt Stafford is headed to Los Angeles. He'll be the new Rams quarterback. So Jared Goff and 3 picks go to Detroit. Matt Stafford goes to Los Angeles. This is not entirely unexpected. Kudos to the Rams for getting the trade done quickly, not waiting for this to linger. It can't become official until the free agency period begins in March. But this certainly shrinks the pool of suitors for New Orleans. Now, what's really interesting and what, as some of the information is leaked out, what this illustrates is that New Orleans was really never a player for Stafford anyway. And so my feeling on Deshaun Watson has been, look, the Saints don't have the capital to make a trade for Deshaun Watson. And that's true. I mean, if you're actually looking at it sensibly, they didn't have the assets to trade, to be competitive, to get Deshaun Watson. Clearly, they didn't even have the assets to get Matt Stafford, a 32-year-old quarterback who's had rib and spine and back injuries. And they weren't even in this mix. Sports Illustrated is reporting that 7 teams were interested. The Panthers and the Washington football team offered first-round picks. The Rams ultimately offered Goff and 3 picks. The Colts, the Niners, the Broncos, the Patriots, the Bears, and the Jets all were involved in discussions for Matthew Stafford. No mention of the New Orleans Saints. For what it's worth, the Panthers offered the 8th overall pick. Not enough. Which would have meant the Lions would have had 2 top 10 picks in this year's draft. And they said, no thanks. Washington offered its first-round pick, the 19th overall, plus a third-rounder. No thanks. The Colts, Niners got priced out. Broncos apparently discussed a pick swap. Patriots offered a second-round pick and a player. Bears and Jets were also in discussions. No mention of New Orleans. I think it says a couple of things. Number one, the Saints were never going to be a player for Matt Stafford. And number two, the Saints have to be all in on Jameis Winston now. I don't know what other alternative that you have. It's very clear that the Lions, in dealing Matt Stafford, also wanted a quarterback or the opportunity to draft an elite quarterback. And they got that. They got Jared Goff. Guy's been a starter, former number 1 overall pick, been to a Super Bowl. Say what you want, for better or worse. And they got a 3rd-round pick this year, and the next 2 years, first-round picks as well. So that's what the Lions wanted. It's clearly what the Texans want as well. If they're going to trade Deshaun Watson, they're going to get a quarterback for him, or the right to draft either Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields at the top of this draft. It's going to be one of those things. So the Saints can't be in the market. So it basically comes down for the Saints to Jameis Winston. Unless if you're going to tell me that you're bullish on Sam Darnold and you're just aching to get a deal done to bring the Jets quarterback down to New Orleans. Or if you'd rather a veteran like Ryan Fitzpatrick. Or you think maybe there can be a great reclamation project with Mitchell Trubisky in New Orleans. Because I don't think any of those are true. I think it's pretty clear that the Saints are the fact that reportedly New Orleans didn't even get into the conversation with Detroit about Stafford tells you that was just our chatter. That was us having conversation about what we'd like to see. And clearly that was not on their radar. And now you have to be very aware if you're New Orleans. And I'm sure they are. I mean, I'm not sitting there. I don't think Mickey Loomis is like glued to the radio right now up there on Airline in Metri. Like, what's Scone going to say we should do about James? I think he's probably got his plan well aware. But just for the sake of our conversation, there were reports today from NFL analyst Evan Massey that the Saints want to keep Winston, but both the Bears and Colts are reportedly going to pursue Jameis in free agency this year. Now, I don't think either of those organizations could offer what New Orleans can. Yes, I'm extremely biased. I certainly don't think Chicago can. But those are both teams that were in the playoffs this year. And they have good rosters around them. But not on par with New Orleans, a place where Jameis spent this past year. My one hope with all of this is that this doesn't get to March. My hope with this is that the Saints get an extension done with Jameis sooner rather than later. So this part of the equation is done. Now, it's obviously not going to happen until we formally hear Drew Brees' retirement announcement. But when that happens, this should happen like the next day. You know my spiel on Jameis. I've done it enough by now. He's physically elite enough to be the number one overall pick. He's got 5 years of starting experience in the NFL. He's got a 5,000-yard season under his belt, which only a handful of quarterbacks in the history of the NFL have. He knows this roster. When faced with adversity, what did he do? He didn't become Ryan Leaf. He didn't become Jamarcus Russell. He humbled himself, took a $1.1 million deal to go be a backup so he could sit and learn from Drew Brees for a year. Went vegan, got in the best shape of his life, had LASIK. He's a father now. He's more mature. You know my spiel. I've done it before. I think he's ready to be a guy that's going to realize his physical potential and become great. I think he is. That's the best bet. And so many people love to talk about the interceptions with Jameis. Hear it all the time. It's interceptions and crab legs. Interceptions and crab legs. Yep, Jameis had 30 interceptions in 2019. Do you realize in the 4 years prior in Tampa, he never had more than 18? As a rookie, he threw 15 picks. You know how many Peyton Manning threw as a rookie? 29. Record that still stands. Following year, 28 and 18. 28 touchdowns, 18 picks. 2017, Jameis only threw 11 picks. And then in 2018, it was 14 picks. Very manageable numbers. The only outlier is what happened in 2019, yet for some reason that becomes the thing that people latch onto when they talk about Winston. Oh, he throws interceptions. No, he doesn't. He did it 1 year. That's the outlier. His first 4 years in the league, he never did that. He was on a crummy team with no running game, felt like he had to force balls. I think that's pretty understandable and explainable. Lots of great quarterbacks have had seasons like that. I've rattled them off. Brees has had one, Manning, Favre, Marino, Tarkenton. They've all had them. Okay. I'm just banking on that being the outlier. And what's more, I don't think you have a better option. Now, I do think you're going to draft a quarterback this year, because you're not going into the season with only Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill. Because you need Taysom in his Taysom role. And if he's going to be the backup quarterback, then he can't be in the Taysom role, because then you don't have a backup quarterback. So I do think you draft a quarterback somewhere in this draft. You keep Taysom in his role, and you try to get a deal with Jameis done sooner than later, because you don't want the Bears and the Colts and every other quarterback-needy team driving up that price. All that time we spent talking about Stafford. Saints never even, not only did they not throw their line in the water, they never baited the damn hook. It's a fun conversation for a few days, though. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.